I'm not going to introduce you because they've clicked on this podcast or they're listening to the podcast and they know what it's about. And if they need to know even more information about you, they can click it in the description. So, I've given up doing these big, long-winded intros now. I think it's just better just to get cracking and just get chatting. So that's what we're going to do. So you're going to carry on chatting. You were telling me about your background, about how you quit rugby, or you chose to quit rugby to do strongman, right?
Yeah. So I was okay back in England, county level. Tore one ligament in my knee when I was 13. Had the surgery at 15. Had 2 seasons out. It was traumatic for me because it was my life then. 13 to 17 was the game because there was 2 years surgeons said that they couldn't do it. I was too young. My growth plates were growing. We got a West Ham surgeon. He said no. My parents, we had private healthcare from my dad. We're not mega rich.
Nice.
And then we found someone else who said it's possible, it's risky, but it's very possible. Had my reconstruction at 15. Did loads of rehab, had proper, again, with private healthcare, physio, he smashed it, he's really good. And then I even remember when I saw the surgeon the first time, he was like, sometimes we can't explain it, some people just have weak cruciate ligaments. And I remember me and my mum sort of laughing at the time. He said some people come back and do the other one 2 years later. So basically I was playing again, 2 years of build-up, everyone was happy I was playing. I think I played about bloody 4 matches when I was 17, and I tore my cruciate ligament of my other knee, which was distraughtful, childhood crush. And they saw the same surgeon. We know we could do it straight away. I think he did it within a few months. And then also about 4 months into my rehab, I had a mega sesh, and I don't know if I kind of did it again because I fell over mashed. And I basically, being a 17-year-old, too scared to tell anyone, I just ignored it. But it was really, really weak. And I really felt like I did it again, which makes me think that that's always the one that's been weak. So I think that if I'd just not been a little shy 17-year-old and just told people, then it could have been resolved. And then in my rehab, I had a strength coach at my gym who I'm still very good friends with now. He's actually won England's and Britain's strongest man under 90 kilos, competed at Europe's strongest man twice. He's a strong geezer.
Yeah.
He was helping me at school. I wouldn't go to rugby training. I wouldn't do hockey. Yeah, we played hockey in my school. We'd just be doing sort of physio in the gym. And in that rehab, we were doing some strongman movements because obviously it's big compound movements, all functional training. And then obviously I got pretty good at the strongman stuff. And then where I could play again when I was about 18, so sort of last season of school, first season of Colts, I'd go to rugby training a few times. My knee might feel funny and it might pop, and then I can't do anything for about 10 days. And so that happened for a few months, even to the point where there was a sevens tournament. And again, I was a super sub. I was like, look, boys, I can't play a whole whatever. Came on, touched the ball once, passed the ball, and then when someone not even hit me late kind of fell onto me and my knee buckled, and then I was just I couldn't do anything for 2 weeks.
Mate, I've been through knee issues myself. I have a similar sort of story but with PCLs, I busted both PCLs. I didn't ever get surgery on the PCLs themselves because you don't need them, and if you have big enough legs, you definitely don't need them. So yeah, that happened. So maybe I've got weak PCLs, but but my ACL on my right side had a slight tear into it too, as well. But they thought it was cartilage, so they went in and I got keyhole surgery on it. But it is that feeling of never being certain about how stable your knee is shitty. It's it is the actual worst, and you never get over it until I remember even 2 seasons after I'd had the surgery, I was still strapping up my knee. And people are like, why are you strapping up your knee? And I'm like, I don't really know. It's just for a mental thing, to be honest. Does it ever go? I'm like, no. I remember one time I strapped... I used a whole roll of tape. And at this point, I was just I'd go in the physio room. I say, look, don't worry about it. I don't want to take up your time. I know what I'm doing. And this is after I busted the second knee. But I'd rehabbed that all right and I was back playing. and then I went cracking. I used like I always used the whole one of those, like, you know, the line out tapes. I used the whole roll every time. I used one whole roll and I taped it all up, and I put my boots on. I went to go out and I was like, I fucking strapped up the wrong knee.
Really?
Yeah.
When you got two, yeah.
I strapped up because like there was a point for about a few weeks where I'd strapped up both, and then I just stopped strapping them up, and it was literally never an issue. There was even a point when, like, my one game I ever played at Twickenham, I was wearing like a classic old man knee support because like the tape wasn't doing enough of a job, and I felt so like I would put the line out tape over the knee support. It's classic, so fucking classic. But like, that's such classic like budget low level rugby. But I was like getting paid at the time, and I'm just wearing this fucking useless like blue knee support, but like legit. And then eventually got to the point where I stopped doing it, and then, but like, even now sometimes like I'll feel if I don't go running for a while, and I'll just, you know, I did it the other day actually. I started running, like I went for a run for the first time in like absolute months, and my knee was like, ooh, don't do that, mate. So it's like something you got to manage for the rest of your life.
Definitely,
and there's probably something like mechanically off with it. But yeah, anyway, so you then just at that point just said, sack this off and let's just do strongman.
It was, I think at that time, again, I could play and I could go to training, but if my knee buckled, I couldn't do anything in the gym. And when I was 18, that was like life, like gym, rugby, whatever. And so I kind of, there was competitions like also powerlifting, which I'm not built for, but I was like, there was English powerlifting meets, there was other strongman competitions that obviously for the three months before, I need to do everything to the T. And I was like, I kind of forgot this story because I realized it was a story I told myself that my knees were fucked, which I actually found out when I did some coaching with someone. But I remember that I did choose to compete in strongman and concentrate on that rather than play what was probably moderate to average rugby, and it could be busted and it could mean I'm just limping all week. And I think also it was when I was going to uni, and I lived about a mile and a half away from number one campus and number two, which was the gym. And I was like, when I went to the uni, I was like, I don't want to be busting my knee, getting my crutches out and crutching like 5 miles a day. So I just kind of fell out of it, and again my knee was just gone in my head and it's impossible. And then with the strongman, obviously it's tons of strength works, tons of power work, but there was never or not much like single leg or stability. It was just like fucking gains, get some plates on the bar.
Like, and I think that it would be the walks, right? The walks and the carries are probably like the only thing that like you're really exposed to. There's no lunges or anything like that.
No, you know what was funny? When I would do a medley, I could pick up a sandbag, pick up a keg. I would like, obviously it's a fast walk. And then the only worrying point was when I would put it on the platform, trying to turn with body weight and my knees dodgy. I'd tiptoe over like the Pink Panther because I didn't trust my knees running at full pace. But then when I picked up a keg, I was like, oh, I got this one. Yeah. And it was quite funny.
That's funny. I think
the years of concentrating on...
Yeah, that's fine. I was just going to say, like, walking in a straight line is, like, so much easier and, like, does not prepare you, and it's, like, not a challenge. You're like, when people say, like, oh, my knees are fine, I can squat. And then you're like, well, that's got nothing to do. Like, that's not really preparing you for rugby. Like,
not for rugby, no.
Like, there's never a point in rugby where you're, like, well, rarely, like, where you're just running a straight line. And even then, it's there's rarely a point in life where it's just, like, a case of doing things straight. Like, the body doesn't do that. And then like, so you're even like strongman's quite a good example of that. Even then, when you're just making the turns and like,
which wasn't very often.
No, but
there would be a medley. I'd only do like one medley a year, and there's about 6 events in a competition. I'd do 3 or 4 a year. So I'd be beastly strong up and down, deadlifts, cleans, snatches, like not technique snatches, like power snatches and stuff. But then I remember, like, if I would jog across the road, I'd be, like, tiptoeing because I'm so, like, unstable. And obviously at the time I was just gauging strength, I'm quoting for the people who are podcasting, on the weight on the bar. But, like, I'd feel uneasy going up a big curve because my leg was my lower body was just unstable. And obviously, a couple of years of hammering pure strength training with not much rehab, my back was frigged up, and basically it was the same story with rugby. How over a year or two, just kept getting the same injuries. So then I stopped strongman, and then it was kind of learning about rehab, which made me a lot better coach actually.
But you learn it after doing it, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Even when you're supposed to be doing it, you think you know better. Like, this reminds me of like when I'm at uni, or when I was at uni, sorry, and you think you know so much better because you read fucking T-Nation or some shit, and you think you know better than all of the professors. This guy's only telling me to have 150 grams of protein. He doesn't know shit. Like, he obviously hasn't read the latest supplement newsletter or some shit. And then you realise, like, you come eventually, like, but that's the arrogance of being young, I think. Like, and then eventually at some point Pandora's box opens up, and you realise that, like, fucking life has so much nuance to it, and you don't know anything. And then you start realising, like, how much you realise that you are really stupid. Like, and you start to see all the mistakes that you made, and then it gets to a point where you're like nervous, and you're like, I'm saying this because I think it might be right now, but there's a good chance I'm actually just talking shit. Like, even then, when you're like, you must have thought at the time you were fucking strong as fuck, and now you can't even say strong without putting up air quotes.
Yeah. Like, because that's just a version of that is a version of strength, but that's the only strength that I knew at the time.
Yeah.
Because I remember there's 2 points when I was in the rugby and I was limping, and there was a guy who was playing for, I think it was Bedford, who at the time were like a championship or Division 1 team, whatever. He was like, look, just get your knee right and you might be able to sort of play and make something of it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then someone in the gym, there was an old trainer who was like, yeah, if your back's hurting, mate, this was like when I started to get some practice, your back's hurting, maybe you should do some other stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to do competitions. And it's just being arrogant and not hearing. And now I'm more open to listen to experts. And I had a chat with my brother how, like, let's say 5 years ago, the word mentor would be like, what's a fucking mentor, you fucking pussy? I don't need help from no one.
Yeah.
But, like, discussing how he's got 2 people and there's 2 people that you go to for help. Yeah, funny.
Just growth.
Yeah.
Like mental growth. You know, it's good to do that, though. It's good to, like, because I always find it funny when people are like, you've changed. Like, especially when I go home. And they say it in jest. They're saying it just mucking around. But they're like, I can't believe how much you've changed. I'm like, fuck, I haven't seen you in 5 years. I better hope I've changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I was a dickhead back then. Maybe I'm still more of a dickhead, but that's at least I'm a dickhead that's changed a little bit because, like, life. I don't know. But yeah, so you didn't really ever, like, properly get into, like, did you still go back to rugby at any point after that strongman, or when did you pack in strongman?
No. Packing in strongman, I think I was 25. I got an invite to Britain's Strongest Man under 90 kilos because I think I got 3rd in England, and the guy who was 1st couldn't do it or something. And I was like, fucking hell, this is like big shit. This is well cool. And obviously that was 3 weeks after the competition before, which is not enough to recover for like a maximal strength competition. And obviously I buggered my back in event 1, which was just fucking depressing and terrible. All my mates were there. It was terrible. And then since then, I don't really know. I'm losing myself here. I'm kind of getting back into a zone that wasn't very fun. It was kind of like, I think I threw it away a bit, kind of like rugby. I was like, oh, my back's fucked. And that was the story I told myself.
But then again,
when I was 18,
I'm not being funny, but if you got third, like, especially with, like, strength sports, and I do sort of put this on to rugby as well, but, like, especially with strength sports, like, because I did weightlifting for a stint, so a lot of what you're saying rings bells, but it's like, you train your fucking ass off, and, like, you really fucking train hard, and so it gets to the point where, a competition, you have to do the competition just to put meaning into all that training, but it's not really like you're not really doing it for the competition, because the fact is, like, you were never, no offense, but you're probably never going to be world's strongest man under 90 kilos or above, or even then, like, no offense to strongman, but if you're world's strongest man under 90 kilos, nobody gives a fuck.
There's a joke about that, and yeah, it's funny.
Like,
it's not the most you'll get. The most you'll get is a tub of protein and a few tags from the protein supplement sponsor.
Right, but that's not to take away, but that's just to say, like, it's all about the internal, right? It's about, like, why you decided to train, and I guess that, like, sometimes, especially, I can't imagine how hard strongman training is. I thought about going down that route and asking you, like, because it is fucking brutal. Because there was a point where I was doing Olympic weightlifting at a strongman gym, and it just looked like everyone I knew got fat just because they had to eat so much just to get through some of the training. And, like, even the guys that were, like, relatively strong weren't, like, if you were looking at them, like, from a powerlifter standpoint, they weren't very strong. But they were good at all these really awkward lifts that were just grueling. Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't know, like, it's cool to make your training like that, and the competition puts a sort of context to it, but it's not, I don't know, I think weightlifting and powerlifting, they're all the same, where it's like, and especially bodybuilding, probably, like, the competition is just to, like, an end point, just to say, right, this is where you should peak, and this is what you should be doing your best, and that's absolutely where you should be doing your best. Like, you're not a powerlifter if you've literally never competed in powerlifting. You're someone that just trains squat, bench, and deadlift, and that's fine, but you're not a powerlifter. And it's like, I think that you need those events to put context to the training, so that you're not just someone who, you know, like, there's a reason the world records exist, which is why, like, there was all that drama about what's his name, old Thor, who did the deadlift. He said he did that world record, and, like, well, does that really count? It's not really a competition. And I would be of the camp of, like, it counts as a deadlift, but it shouldn't count the same as what Eddie Halls did, because his was in a competition. Mm-hmm. And it's like nailing a kick. Like, no one cares if you nailed a 70-meter kick in training. Like, there's no relevance.
You need the demands of the game or the sport, whatever the competition is. Yeah. Like, I think on Eddie's deadlift, it was the first event of the day. I don't think he competed in anything else that day. But, however, the build-up is with 12 other guys. You've still got you do a deadlift and you wait for 8 guys. It takes so long, especially if they're lifting 400 plus kilos, because each of them might get 2 minutes to do a lift, and that's 2 minutes to go from off the stage, on the stage, and off. So if Eddie Hall's got 10 people, he's got 20 minutes, and he'd have to do 300 kilos, wait 20 minutes, 350, wait 20 minutes. Whereas, and you get cold in that time. Whereas Thor is a feat to behold, and I watched it live. It was easier than Eddie's one in competition, but he did it at home on his own plates, on his own bar, with, like, no other cues to worry about. Yeah. So it is a feat, and just because it's official official World's Strongest Man world record, they're just a few mates who, like, sanctioned. One guy might just go, yeah, that's actually official. That day is going to be official. I'm going to put it in the website. It's not some huge governed thing by loads of different stakeholders and investors. There's, like, main guys that are like, this is going to be a sanctioned one. We're going to count this, and then, like.
Well, I mean, it was good for strongman. It made more people care about World's Strongest Man. Well, that was the idea. But
you reckon?
Well, the idea was that it made if more people, like, you need highlights like that to make people care, and then you got to try and keep them around. World's Strongest Man's biggest issue is that it's, like, not live. It's weird.
Yeah, it happened in the summer.
Yeah, I know, it's so strange, but this is probably another topic for another time. But, like, so I want to go back to your story, mate, because this is interesting. So you feel was that your yeah. I did this and then I got injured, and then I did this and then I got injured, and now I tell people not to do this. But, like, do you feel like you had to, like, that was it? That was, like, the best you could do, and because it was so shit, like, that was why you quit? Or do you think, I don't know, like, because the training is really hard, I know that.
The training's hard, but since I was training with that coach who was 17, I'd done that for years, so it almost felt normal.
This is all you ever knew.
Yeah, from rugby, like the fitness, I'd go crazy and being sick and that, and then I kind of just transferred that to like shifting heavy weights rather than doing the fitness drills. So like training hard, whatever the workout was, I'd always go ham. That's probably the downfall and where my body failed. And I did try not to compete again, but like there was either a mental block. I saw loads of people, specialists, neurologists, physios. No one could give me an answer. MRI showed nothing. And one of my friends was like, who's a physio. He was like, a lot of injuries, especially if it's like trauma to some part of your life.
Yeah.
They can be mental and they can just hang around in your brain. If you're waiting for it to happen, then it's going to be there the whole time. And basically, over about 2 years, when I was personal training, I'd start doing some heavyish stuff, like pretty heavy general terms, but not compared to training for strongman. And I'd just get this little twinge whenever I'd go slightly heavier, and then I didn't have the goal of sort of competing anymore. And like you just said, if there wasn't a competition, I wouldn't be doing it. And then I think at the same time met the woman who is my fiance now, and we discovered travel, which is I think another topic for another time.
Yeah.
And just interests and what I wanted to do with my time changed a bit. And yeah, that was all.
What does your training look like now?
Oh, right now in lockdown at my mum's house.
Yeah.
I actually, when we left here, left a set of dumbbells from 2 kilos to 17 and a half. There's a few bands and a few kettlebells up to 15. And I try and go in the garage. One of my habits for the year was to be active every day. Doesn't mean a mega hard fuck myself up session, but be active. And I'm actually on the Isle of Wight, which has got massive hills, huge beach walks. So I try and do I'd say 4 hard but short workouts in the gym, which are maybe circuit or superset. Like I can't do too much with those equipment, but like we said, it's teetering towards rugby conditioning because that's like on the back of my head. So probably 4 workouts in the garage, which are quite static, just shifting tin, doing random exercises, and then all the other days I'll do something like a hill walk or on a beach. Like a big walk around. So yeah, probably 4 weights with basic home dumbbells. Sort of they follow like a rugby fitness type program with some guns in there because we all need to work on the guns every now and again.
That is absolutely still part of rugby fitness, mate.
Part of rugby muscle. There's a whole mesocycle.
Yeah.
Associated to the guns.
Absolutely, mate. If you're not filling out your shirt, what's the point of having tight shirts if they're loose around the arms? Like there's no you're not doing any strength and conditioning if you don't at least fill out the arms in your jersey.
Oh, jokes. What do you do now? How much BJJ in there, and how much gym is there?
Here, so in Curitiba, where I'm at right now, the cases have gone quite up, and actually most places. I originally signed up to this place called Thai Brazil, where a lot of not a lot, but enough UFC people train there. And I was like, cool, this is going to be great. I'm going to go in there. And it's like a good gym as well. Well, I thought it was a good gym. But it has like the weights and stuff. So I was like, cool. It's like within walking distance of my place. So I signed up there. And then the week we signed up, they actually closed down the jiu-jitsu training because of the pandemic. And I was like, fair enough. And then you read in, it's just like, it's not quite wise to train here. And particularly just because of the people that I'm around, it's like irresponsible as well, which sucks because now this is like 6 or 7 weeks now without any jiu-jitsu and I'm missing it. But in essence, I was just doing the weights instead. And actually this sort of ties in my training in general actually, because I set out last year I really properly looked at it and I was like, I want to do, because I'd just done a heavyweight. The year before, so 2019 was my first year of jiu-jitsu, and I did 2 competitions. One was under 95 kilos, one was under 90 kilos, and I won them both. The one that was under 90, I spent the biggest challenge of the under 90 was cutting the weight, doing the week before, just because I wanted to feel like what it was like to do a water cut. Spoiler alert, fucking sucks. Like, it is miserable. It took over my life, and I managed to put on 10 pounds overnight, go back and compete. And then I remember grabbing the guy in my competition, just feeling like I had nothing, because I was just, I put the weight back on, but I hadn't got the energy. But then I was able to crush him because I was just that much bigger than him, and probably just like more proficient. Like, I felt him get really tired, and I remember being a bit disappointed that I won the competition and it was just so easy. So I thought about it, and I was like, why am I competing against like small people? I didn't sign up to jiu-jitsu. Like, I didn't play rugby and say, oh, hold on, you're 10 kilos too heavy for me. That's not fair. Like, I would just smash everyone.
Then, mate. You gotta get on the ground.
Yeah, I was like number 8, and I'll be smashing as many people as I can. I'll be like, okay, you're bigger than me, but I'm gonna be more aggressive and more athletic and everything. I'm still gonna try or outthink you or whatever, you know. I'm gonna be a better player than you. And I thought, well, I should really, in theory, be doing that in my jiu-jitsu. So I entered a heavyweight competition, and ended up being no gi, which is like different to what I trained, but it was nationals, and I was like, screw it, I'll just do it anyway, and I got 3rd, which I was like really pissed off at, but then it like made me feel like at least I was like felt a bit more true that I was playing against the big boys. And then you look at the pictures, and I'm like, oh no, these are the big boys, but like they're not that much bigger than me. Like, or I'm also a big boy. But then that was when I set the goal. I was like, okay, now I'm actually going to get the size back that I've probably lost since rugby and since, just being a normal person and not trying to force feed myself. So this whole quarantine has been, or this whole year of 2020 was like, I'm going to put on size again. I'm going to be big. And then the main area I wanted to put on was my legs, and then lockdown happened and all gyms closed. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I just did I still gained like 5 kilos of mass, like just doing a shit ton of pull-ups. Like I trained legs at like maintenance volume. It kind of probably slowly grew, but then when they opened up back, gyms opened back up, I was able to put on a good bit of mass. I'm now sat like, I'm a good, I'd say 15 or so kilos heavier than I was this time last year. Which is
really?
Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's a kilo a month net, and probably a good portion of that is like not lean tissue. AKA
I was going to say, are you tongue?
No, nah. I wouldn't. I'd say, a good deal of it. A good deal of it is muscle. So this now moves on to this year, right? Where I looked at it at the end of the year. I was like, cool. I've put on the size I really wanted to, but there was a point where, I consulted with a friend because I still write mostly my own programming, but I like to consult with a few high-level people just to basically have them say, yes, what you're doing is actually clever, or you're an idiot, or whatever, or just look at things a bit differently. And he said to me, he's like, because I was thinking about like how I'm going to periodize my training and whatnot, and he said, I said, do you think I still need to periodize training my legs? And he's like, why do you want to do that? And I said, well, because on a calculator, or because overall they look a little bit small. And he's like, but you're not a bodybuilder. Like, you don't want, like, as long you've built this size using bodybuilding, but you're not a bodybuilder. And it really rang true to me. I'm like, shit, like, you get caught up in the methods. Like, and it's almost like, that's why I kind of thought, I probably just brought it in my head about saying, powerlifters aren't powerlifters unless you compete. Like, I don't want to compete in bodybuilding. I have no desire to do that. I just wanted to get bigger. So who do you seek out to when you want to get bigger? Is bodybuilders and stuff. And so, like, I was using those people for sources of information, and over time they sort of chip away, and it made me think about, like, consider doing bodybuilding and stuff. And then I realized, like, that's not fun. That's not what I want to be doing. I want to be doing. Terrible. I want to put on size. Enjoyment wise, sorry. Yeah, like, it's a challenge, but it is nothing compared to jiu-jitsu. And I think that's something that I've and really has been hammered home to me in these last like 6 or 7 weeks where I haven't done it. And so now it brings me full circle to, like, right, I've put on the size I want. Like, I don't necessarily need to get bigger. Like, I'm probably like this will be the top end of my weight like for life. Is I'm 108, 109 kilos. Like I'm just gonna go down, and then this will be like the top end again, and that in between this weight. But ideally, every time I come back up, it's a little bit leaner. But the whole overall point is that I'm like now looking to train a little bit more athletic, and that starts in 2 weeks, or when this comes out, I'll already be up in Natal. But I'll be in Natal, Rio Grande do Norte, and I'll be training jiu-jitsu. I'll be training jiu-jitsu more than I'll be training weights, which is what I'm looking forward to.
But I think you need to find the healthy balance between what you want to train for your sport, which, like you said, if I wanted to be world's strongest man, that should be your 100% focus. If it had more benefit than just a fucking tub of protein and a mention on a website.
Can I just pause and make you aware of like how your video is frozen?
Oh shit! I didn't even realise that. I'm kind of in speech, looking around the room, and oh god, is that going to save on the video?
Yeah. I can't change it. I don't know how to.
just put an audio up. Don't fucking share the video.
Yeah, I might have to. No.
Oh, no, just me. Christ.
I'm still getting used
to
like
one of those old movies in the 80s where someone's burning and their face just melts.
That was a terrible look. At least you're frozen again, but you're looking a little bit better.
I was going to say, but then you can choose between your goals, which jiu-jitsu is your sport, but you wanted big legs.
Yeah.
And you've accomplished that. And obviously the training might have not been as specific to jiu-jitsu, but you've got both goals. You're going to be kind of better at jiu-jitsu because you're heavier, which is what you wanted, and you've got the bigger legs, which is the sort of aesthetics thing that you wanted to achieve.
Funny you say that. It's like it was kind of what like I joked about it a second ago. We're talking about building up, you know, getting bigger arms. Like yeah, sure, that might not actually have a bearing in like on actual rugby performances. I mean, very rarely are you going to look at someone in rugby and give them a knees analysis and say, oh, the area that you are weakest in is your biceps or your tricep. Like that needs, like, you know, and it doesn't. You lose the ball in contact because you've got two smaller biceps, you know, or something. I don't know how it would work, right? But that doesn't, you know, and if they did, right, it wouldn't be biceps. It would probably be overall muscle mass that they're too small at. So never is it going to be the point. But that doesn't mean that people don't feel a little bit better from doing, like, even at the top, like the highest level. And there is a point where, like, and this is something that I find with jiu-jitsu, and this is something that I find with everyone I work with, and something that I think I put in the notes beforehand that I feel like we wanted to talk about was, like, if you're an amateur athlete, particularly, like, your biggest struggle to play rugby or to be better at rugby is not going to be specifically rugby specific fitness or some real functional nuanced part of like fitness that you only applies to rugby. It would be just being aerobically fitter, or it would just be being stronger or whatever, and then being better in your skills. And I feel like that's something that keeps getting hammered home to me with people I work with and also with myself. Like, it's my biggest barrier to me being a better grappler is not my strength, endurance, or even my size, really. It is, or any of that. It's how good I am at grappling. Like, I'm still a fucking blue belt at the end of the day. So people that are less fit than me, they're going to be old motherfuckers that, have, like, I have 40 kilos on and are extremely, like, so much fitter, so much, like, of a better athlete than, that would still be able to kick my ass.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because
and if you do it effortlessly, you don't need the fitness as much because it just flows with it, like jiu-jitsu. I did a few sessions again trying to find a calling between rugby and strongman all at the same time, and the jiu-jitsu guy was a black belt, and I remember he was wrestling me. I don't know what the terms are anymore, but his eyes were closed and he was literally just abusing me and just putting me in all these strange positions. He was a big black belt, like he was like 85 plus kilos, but he was just, I could see his eyes were shut and he was just like twisting and choking myself with my own arm. I was like, hold on, just give me a fucking break, mate. It's like my second session.
Yeah, my original professor, like, would regularly do it blindfolded, and you just, like, takes the piss, Or one of my main coach, Jalen, when I first started working with him, we would do it where he wouldn't use his arms, and now that's funny because it goes full circle. Yeah, I now do that with most people when I'm playing guard, which means when I'm on the bottom. I'll try and just not use my arms and try and retain my guard to work on my foot, doing my footwork. I guess it's kind of like, you know, when you play like ruck touch or you play some sort of touch where, I don't know, where someone is inhibited some way. It's just a version of doing that, really.
Just sounds cool because you fight with no arms, though.
Yeah, that's true. Or, yeah, I mean, the blindfolded thing is more of a show, I think, and like not being, because really you don't really see too much. People are in, like, you are doing a lot of it by feel.
Mm.
But yeah, absolutely. I think that is like finding a means to an end is like the biggest goal or the biggest struggle most people face is just consistently fucking training. So if you do something that you find that you enjoy, fucking have at it. Unless that thing that you enjoy is massively holding you back from actually making the progress. Like, so strongman's like a perfect example. Like, how many people sort of try to dabble in strongman to help their rugby when all that does is just like, and they do it because it's fun, not because they think that it is also because they think that tire flipping makes them, for some reason, like the best tackler in the world. But it's more because it, like, they think that, but really it's just because it is fun and it looks cool. But sometimes, like, if you get too far into it, then it's absolutely going to wreck you, and it's going to make actually training for rugby, like, your rugby performance somewhat go down. Same thing for, I'll always say it for Olympic lifting and powerlifting as well. Like, when people say, and jiu-jitsu and lifting, all of it, like, when they say, what's the best way to combine powerlifting and jiu-jitsu? It's like, you can't. Like, there is no best way. There is a best way for you to do it, right? There's a best way, and you have to choose. Like, I have to actively make decisions as to where I'm gonna, like, and this is what sort of where I've planned out my year here, where I've like, right, I've had this time where I can actually go to the gym without jiu-jitsu or competition being too much of a interference. But now I'm going into a phase where it's going to almost be flipped on its head. So I need to do enough gym to hold on to all of the muscle, ideally, that and try and gain some strength out of the muscle I have. But if I do any more than absolutely necessary, that's just going to get in the way of the jiu-jitsu that I could be doing, going forward. And
I had a client ask me a similar thing. He did a program, lost a bit of weight, and now we just stay in touch. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I think he's in the police." He was like, my force or his, I don't know what the word is. There's like a powerlifting competition in 3 months, and obviously back then, I think it was before my rugby training was allowed in December. He was like, "Yeah, what can I do so I can hit my best 1 rep max in 3 months, but also be my fittest in 3 months for when rugby starts?" I was like, "Bro, it's not possible. You got to pick one."
Yeah.
Like, unless you want to be averagely good at both, but if you want to do your 1 rep max, I think he was mid-30s. I was like, that's probably not going to get any better. Like, maybe do that for a while, seeing as we're in lockdown and you're hoping for a friendly, you're not even hoping for a league. So I was like, why don't you pick that, smash that?
Yeah.
That's going to knock you out anyway. And then, lo and behold, rugby was cancelled, so it's a good choice anyway. Oh, and his competition was cancelled, so it doesn't matter. But yeah,
yeah, lockdown rugby. This is something that I've been hammering home on the podcast for, I think, actually since September, when we realised that, like, rugby still wasn't going to happen properly this season. It's like, if you have any rugby, I've been trying to tell people to use the game. Like, it goes back to nobody giving a shit. Like, use these games, whatever you do have, almost as training sessions. Like, I think this is a time where we should be, especially rugby players, should be prioritising your training. This is the one time really you're ever going to get a consistent stretch this long where you can properly just get some good training goals or whatever, where you can actually sacrifice a little bit of rugby performance, because even if there are games, which there probably won't be many, they're going to be just friendlies, and they're going to be friendlies where, like, did you find this when you had your clients go back to pre-season in September or whenever there was a pre-season? Like, that all of my clients were, like, really worried because they're like, because I don't do a lot of, like, high intensity interval training or anything like that. Like, the training they do is mostly all aerobic, like, because that's what they need for rugby. and they never get it. They never feel overly tired, but they're getting fitter so much, but they don't realise it because they don't go to rugby training or they don't play a game, so they haven't realised that. So they put a lot of faith in it. Sometimes I'll throw in something a bit difficult just to make it feel like they're training a bit harder, but I'm a bit against that. So they were like really worried about going into pre-season. Like, I don't know about this. Like, I'm not sure. I haven't done too much like anaerobic stuff. Like, how am I gonna perform? And then they show up and they are like I've had props that have been lapping backs and stuff because if you're listening to this podcast, like you're someone that's like an exception. Like, most players in your, like, if not all, everyone else in your team is not listening to the Rugby Muscle podcast. Like, they're not doing that. They're just probably getting boozed up, you know? So most people have gone, like, my guys have actually improved, even if they were worried about, like, how much they've improved or, like, just getting back to the first pre-season session. And I'm sure your guys did the same thing. And they also haven't been around other people or their other teammates who have actually been getting so much less fit and getting in so much worse shape. And then they don't realise it, and then they show up to training and they realise, oh, everyone else is, like, I've been getting better, everyone else has gone in the complete other direction. Because usually, if you've been getting better, everyone else has also been kind of getting better. And because of lockdown, you don't see everyone that's just been doing nothing. Like, one guy said, oh, the guy that I used to compete with for my position discovered a deep fat fryer.
That's good lockdown, then.
Yeah.
Tasty lockdown.
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah. But a lockdown will scar you for life.
Yeah, I think most people, obviously, I don't speak to them because the ones that talk to me are the ones asking for help. But most people have seen it as I'm a kickback. They thought it was going to be a month or two last summer. And the kickback has just carried on. Yeah. And the people that are going out of their way, worked with one of us, they're doing more work than they've ever done, which is obviously also about 3 times as much work as anyone in their team has done. Yeah. So they're going to come back flying, and hopefully when the season starts, they'll be if season starts, they'll be miles ahead again.
Yeah, I do think that it's like, so even if they're like overtrained slightly, or they're just not, you know, because obviously there's a particular point where you want to try and peak for games, but it doesn't really matter too much if you're that much fitter than everyone anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I guess a good example would be if you went to your UK Strongest Man, and for some reason, Hath Thor Bjornsson decided that he could compete. Like, he wouldn't have to have been into his peaking block and perfectly planned it out. So he would still beat the competition quite handily in under 90 kilos at least. And like,
he's double that, literally double that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. So he's already that much better. Like, and these people that are that much fitter, even though they're not as fit as they could be had they like peaked, they will be when they come to the end of, when this new season comes around, and they actually, they'll be thankful for the fact that they used it, and rather than waste their time saying, oh, how do I, should I carb up, or should I take 2 days off before this friendly game that literally no one cares about and no one is allowed to even watch because we're still sort of in a tiered lockdown system or whatever, Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I have a guy that lives with someone who's vulnerable, and he's not really left the house much at all. And he said, he's going to find it tough to go back to rugby skills training because he's not a super high level. It's just like wants to know the basics and learn the moves. I was like, look, all we can do now is get as fit as you can, and then hopefully you can learn it quicker because you won't be as tired when you go back. And there's nothing else we can do. Like, You're not at training. You're not going to do any passing. Let's focus on what we can do. You're at home. You've got dumbbells, whatever. Mm-hmm. Hopefully your fitness is going to put you above, I don't know, whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah. Get him a bro ball.
A bro ball? Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but that's the other thing is, like, people think that, like, going to rugby training is the thing that's made the big difference, but rugby training is more about seeing your mates than it is like yeah, obviously you do your tactical stuff and your set pieces and stuff, but most stuff in season, and I guess that by its nature will train the skill because you'll pass the ball around enough, but it's not dedicated skills training. Like for the most part, it's just playing shit touch, like throwing the ball around a little bit. Like I always say that, like 10 minutes of actual dedicated skills training is probably that's your skills probably covered for what you would have done in an actual like Tuesday or Thursday night rugby session.
Mm-hmm.
Like
by skills, I do mean shit touch. So
yeah, right. But like, and they're doing that, and then like watching rugby. I work with quite a few guys from the States, and they don't know, like they never watch rugby, and I'm like, that's one easy thing that you can do to like open your mind up to how the game can be played, and that like it doesn't like. I know the analogy I use for them is like if I say to you, or if someone comes to me and they say, oh look, I know if I say to you, I want to be in the NFL, like I'm convinced I'm going to be like the best athlete, that I can really be a good, I don't know, tight end or something, and I've been working on my fitness, and I've been working on my skills well, like catching the ball and stuff, and then you say, oh, okay, how much NFL have you been watching? I'll be like, none. Like. You're like, okay, good luck. Like, who's Tom Brady? I don't know. Like, you need to know the sport, like, to be able to play it better. Like, even if it isn't specific, like, if you're not breaking it down tactically, just watching it and enjoying it for what it is one thing. But then, watching it and breaking it down tactically is another thing as well that you can do. But I don't know. I do hope that we have some sort of season, or folks in the UK have a season in September, and US and wherever, all around Europe. We need
where I was in Europe, I was based in Hungary all of 2020.
Yeah,
we only missed one. We only missed one game.
Oh really?
What
was your season?
Their season's only about there's only about like 6 teams in the top league.
Yeah.
So there's 5 games in the spring, 5 games in the autumn. But in the spring, we had every game. We had sevens tournaments. We had 3 sevens tournaments in the summer. It was like it was not as restricted or affected at all. My club are training now. There's almost like no restrictions there.
Are the cases properly low there then?
I think they were. I've not delved. I try not to get into the debate too much. But basically, nothing has been affected too much, and then randomly the president just shut borders and did some curfew in like September, October, which was just so out of the blue, and they've just been in a curfew since then. So that's why we came here for quite a while back in England.
That's crazy.
But yeah, we were playing all summer. It was like it felt so lucky because obviously I had my clients going through shit, all this new stuff going on, and we could train and play matches. It was pretty sweet summer.
That is essentially like when this first happened, they did say that like it's funny. People are like, oh, I can't believe we're in another lockdown. Like they never said this was gonna happen. And I'm like, if you actually look from what the experts said from the very start, this is exactly what they said was gonna happen. They're like, we'll probably lock down. We'll probably get a second wave. Like things, even when things go back to normal. Like the nature of how it works and the nature of potential mutations and whatnot mean that things can shut down again quickly. And even if we get a vaccine, it's not the end. And everything. That if you go to credible sources, everything that they've said has basically happened. But you're right. We're not going to get into a fucking COVID debate. Like,
we've got a few separate podcasts. We need to go on a few different shows. Jump on some COVID podcast, the travel podcast. What else was there?
Yeah, mate.
Can't remember a few other topics.
The injury podcast.
Oh yeah. I'll bring my tissues.
But yeah. All right. So I don't know if we've even actually mentioned any of the topics I threw at you to begin with. So I guess we have like how your clients have dealt with lockdown. Has there been any like other lessons that you've sort of learned, I guess, from the lockdown this year? Because has this been your first full year doing this full time, or did you do it in 2019 as well?
Doing full time, yeah. I left England December 2019. I was doing online coaching in the rugby market for that year, and then before that it was general sort of personal training. But purely working online rugby coaching or fitness coaching last year. What have I learned? One thing I learned was that you can, for the guys that I train, because a lot of my guys are recreational level. They come to me because they play rugby, but they kind of want to lose weight and look better. And I learned that you can get a lot of the same results from a plan at home with no equipment whatsoever. 2019, I would tell everyone to go to the gym. You should go to the gym. You need gym membership. Blah blah blah. Obviously, shit hit the fan when COVID happened, and I remember I just kicked my feet up. I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. Gyms are shut. What's going to happen? And then all the people I maybe had conversations with for a few months before were like, hey, mate, I got no pubs are shut. I got no work events. I got loads of time. Can I do a plan? And I was like, well, we can do some home workouts. And if they wanted to get fitter, lose weight, look better, I was like, well, that's fucking done. If someone comes to me, I want to put on loads of strength and deadlift 200 kilos, I haven't got any access to an equipment, I'd be like, that's not possible, mate. But for my guys, looking to drop weight, get fitter, feel fitter, look better, I was like, happy days, boys. If you've got equipment at home, then that's better for variation. But I learned that I can get the results that the guys that I train are looking for with little to very minimal equipment.
Yeah. I sort of learned the same thing, or it was like I kind of knew that in theory, like that you don't need it, but like to apply it, and even applying it to myself, like I said, when we were in lockdown, like I still managed to gain size, which is like the hardest one a lot. But to like see it play out so well with like so many people as well, it's been like sort of eye-opening in that aspect for sure. I think you said like your guys that you work with, is it mostly amateurs that are like looking to lose some fat, like essentially?
Yes.
Or is it like, and then in essence, like they, like that's almost again kind of like shoehorning in like when they play rugby, like that's sort of like what we were saying before, where it's like rugby is a means to an end. It's another cool way to show you're in better shape, but it's not like no one got you, like you're not big or in shape because you're a rugby player, or you're not fat because you're a rugby player. Like you're just someone that happens to play rugby, and then you can use your fitness to sort of like help you get so much to a higher level, or even like whatever training you're doing can help you get to your, do your rugby training more efficiently, I guess is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys that either I train or amateur or grassroots, it's social time. It's hanging out, like you said. It's meeting your boys. Like they could almost all go play football, or they could all play netball. It's more. I think it's more that it's the guys getting together, doing some training.
Lads. Yeah,
with the boys, and if they could lose some weight and get fitter because they don't look after their training, they're going to enjoy that even better because they're going to play better and win more games.
Yeah, that's fuck. If I could tell, I actually had a chat with someone that I've just taken on board the other day, and it's kind of what I said to him first. Because immediately the first thing he said is like, oh, I just play at some shitty level, and it wasn't a shitty level at all. He's like, I only play at this level, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm not being funny. Like I know I could. It's not, probably I could count on one hand the amount of athletes that I work with that get paid to play rugby. Not even have worked with ever could count on easily count on two hands. Like less than 10 people, because they have it already taken care for themselves. Like, but that doesn't mean that it's any less significant for you to like. You don't get any less enjoyment. If anything, that's the challenge. It's more of a challenge for you because it's something that you do out of leisure. It's like your fun. You're not getting paid to do this, so like you're only doing it because you find it fun, because you enjoy it. And so to knock it and say, I don't need to be that fit. I'm only doing it for fun. Like, to me, that doesn't make sense at all. Like, the better shape you're in, like the more you're going to enjoy it. And at the end of the day, the enjoyment is the only fucking reason that you're playing rugby in the first place. You're not doing it to get paid. Like, no one cares, and you're not doing it for glory. Like, again, no one fucking cares.
Like, if you said there's no money, yes, you'd like to win a championship, and if you've gone from you're the slowest guy, you get a bit of stick after the game, You haven't scored a try for 3 seasons. If you get fitter, you probably can get better at your skills as well because you're fitter at training and you can take on information better. You can learn better. You're going to be a better player. You'll have more fun at training and on the game. You might score a try. You're going to be the hero compared to the whatever they might have called you before, and you're going to have a happier life. Literally, It might sound cheesy, but you will.
Yeah, like I look back on my career and some of the highlights are just playing with my mates, and the best, or even definitely playing with my mates. And the times that I enjoy it are the ones that I remember. I don't look back on the most prestigious or the highest level games or whatever. I look back on the games where I had the most fun. And those are probably the games where I was most prepared for. But I don't know, just a point in my maturity in life, I guess. And that was also when I played the best. And those are also the best memories. And that's the only thing that I really care about. I don't really talk about my playing career too much, to anyone. I just tell people I'm a coach. People never even ask about it, and then sometimes they know about it or whatever. But it doesn't make any relevance. The only relevance it has now is memories of the fun times and the connections and the mates that I have from it. That's quite cool that it's all around the world and stuff. But it's just fun, and again, being in the best shape you can. Sometimes I would put so much pressure on myself to do it, to do everything I could to be in the best shape because I was so scared, versus doing it because it's actually quite a fun thing to try and do, is to try and get in the best shape to try and enjoy it even more. That was when I by far played the best.
And it's also mental. If you're doing a lot of work, you're putting a lot of time in, you feel better on the day of the game day, you're going to process things better, your confidence is higher. It's just positive multiplier. I think me and you, when we find something like a performance goal, it makes no sense to not go completely balls in and learn and do the best whatever. And obviously we've done all that, and now we can share that info with people.
Just like any goal, really. I don't understand how people there's no way if I didn't have any performance goal. That was probably the times when I've struggled the most with even if it was just trying to gain muscle. If I was just trying to gain muscle for muscle's sake, that's probably. This is like a therapy session, mate, because this is uncovering some deep thoughts here. Because that is why I put on so much size last year, was actually because because I set myself the goal to put on size the year before, but I didn't even get close, or the 2 years before that, and I didn't even get close to putting on some the muscle that I'd hoped. I never stayed anywhere near as consistent because I didn't put any context to it. There was no meaning to it. Whereas now it's I put on the size because I was really specific with it. I was I want to try and compete in heavyweight stuff, so it made sense, and then that was why I kept doing it. Whereas if you just if you make a goal, it's really hard to solidify a goal to say, I want to be healthier when I'm 60, because you can't put yourself in your future self for 30 years time. Most people don't even want to do the dishes and they'll sabotage themselves for tomorrow because they're I'll just do it tomorrow. I hate that. You can't picture.
It's stuck on the next day. It's a real job the next day. I hate that.
You've got to. Yeah, it's so hard. But the rational person knows that, and the rational person knows that you can go to the gym now to be healthier when you're 50 or 60. But irrationally, we just care about now. So we don't want to look at. We don't want to clean the dishes, and we don't want to go to the gym because, or we don't want to give up smoking. I'll be fine now. I appear to be okay.
I think it's important to find, like you said, a purpose behind the goal. Otherwise, it's just a goal. It's just a number. It means nothing. And to be reminded of that purpose rather than the goal. Let's say you get knackered after playing with your kid after 5 minutes or something. You want to lose 2 stones so that you can play with your kid and have a better relationship with him. Remember that. That's going to make you go for a run. That's going to make you not have 6 pints on a Tuesday night, as opposed to, do I want to be forced do I want to lose 2 stone? Nah, I just have 6 pints on a Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, mate. All right. We're about to hit the 1 hour mark, mate, of this recording. So
Are we?
Yeah.
Wow, that's the longest pod I've done in a while. I think ever, actually.
Oh, yeah?
I'm a newbie, mate.
And that's all of the other podcasts. I mean, that's cutting off the tangents that we were trying to go down with the other pods.
Yeah, true.
So I tell people quickly where they can find you. I'll put links in below and whatnot, but
Quick Google Regan's Rugby. You'll probably find me. The website is regansrugby.com. We were just chatting before. I do a lot more stuff on Facebook and my sort of personal Facebook page. So if you just search Regan Phillips, send me a cheeky friend request. I try and post content every day, and we can sort of have a chat and help each other out. But yeah, regansrugby.com is where you'll find the website with most of the shebang.
Boom. And people, if you've listened to this and you've enjoyed it, as always, give it a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Click the I think it's subscribe. I can't remember what button it is. It's a green button on your Spotify thing, because we've got a lot of listeners on Spotify, but not a lot of people that are subscribed or something to the feed. I'm not sure how it works, but there's some sort of button that you can press. How about that for like absolute accurate poignant advice there? I don't know, just to help me out, right?
Specific call to action.
If you're on the YouTube, and you like this style of podcast, just like a little bit more of a looser conversation, a little bit more of a catch up, let me know and we'll get more of these done, because obviously we can apparently talk quite a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All different tangents.